Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. Now on this video, I'm going to be looking at the month of November for you, Scorpio. And I'm going to start off by thinking about birthdays because of course, being November, it's birthday month for a lot of Scorpios. But of course, October is also birthday month for a lot of Scorpios. And we astrologers, when we're looking at our clients' charts, we set up something called a solar return, which is a birthday chart. And it gives a picture, a symbolic idea of what the year ahead will contain. So what I'm going to do quickly, as before we get into November, is have a look at some of the birthday groups here, just 3 of them, so that we have some idea of the differences that you can expect, or you can, when I do astrology, we're looking at themes and trends, and that gives us a very good picture to work with. So we're not expecting very specific incidents, but we know what the trend is like. So if we look at what I call the early Scorpios, so we're looking at the October Scorpios, your group is really dominated by this full moon on the 31st of October, which is opposing Uranus. And in fact, in the days up to that full moon and the 31st, every day is important. Its theme, which then goes on into the year ahead, is about endings, and that peppers your 2021 stars, so to speak. But this is all about good things. It's all about starting again, starting over, and creating new things, going where you've never gone before. And the interesting thing here is because Uranus is so dominant in this group, we're probably looking at things that happen very suddenly and unexpected. In other words, you're not sitting there thinking, what can I do that's different this year? How can I totally change my life by throwing out everything I know about the world and the things I've done? No, you wouldn't do that. You're a Scorpio. But what it does mean is that events, other people, circumstances tend to do that for you. So a route is ended and you have to think, God, goodness, I need to carve out a new path. And of course, that will be the making of you. And really 2021, as you'll come to see, as I do the year ahead, is going to be such a breakthrough year in so many ways, because there's so many planets changing signs and direction that, in fact, in an almost general way, we've all got to relearn how to do things. If we come to the next group, which is about the 2nd of November to, let's say, about the 12th, this group is really dominated by the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. That does, in fact, happen on the 12th. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. But in terms of your year ahead, Pluto is your ruling planet, celestial dwarf, but is still a planet as far as we're concerned. So the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction has a bit of a boom-bust thing going for it. In many ways, not only just this period of time in the November period, do you get an idea that something's just run out of road completely. It just, went, that's it, boom. But a bust actually, but also we get this feeling that there's great opportunity and great growth. And of course that, for this group, really colors that year ahead. That's a theme for the year ahead. Finally, if we look at the last group, the late Scorpios, as we might say, and we're looking here at about the 13th through to the 21st of November, then this group really has a very strong Uranian theme to it. And Uranus, of course, is brave new frontiers. And what is interesting here is that it has a lot to do with relationships for this group. And so other people have a really big impact on your life through the next 12 months, whether they totally change your way of thinking and your view of the world, or whether people come into your life and, my goodness, you fall in love with them, you form new kind of business relationships with them. And so that it's other people who introduce you to this kind of Uranian new world. So let's get on with the general forecast for Scorpio. Now, for this, I'm going to actually go and do something a little bit different here. And, I really am so bad when it comes to this. I'm doing technology here. And what I want to do, let's That's right. And I want to, well, you won't be able to see me, unfortunately, but I will come back in a minute. But what we're looking at here, if you're not very familiar with looking at a horoscope circle, I have written all the signs in here, so you get a little view at where everything is. And we always start at the beginning here with the first house, with Scorpio. We can see the sun here and the moon here, Mercury and Venus back here in Libra at the start of the month, and all the other planets, which I'll come to shortly, making quite an impact on your months ahead. So one of the things about having the sun in your sign, and that will be right through until the 21st, is that you're empowered. And what you want to think of during this month of November, at least until the 21st, is the idea that you need to activate and initiate. Now, I think as a rule, humans don't like change very much, and Scorpios certainly don't like change very much. And sometimes we have to be pushed into change because we think, oh, you know, I'm going to wait for that other person to make that move before I do this move. Or we say to ourselves, there may be a better time to do this, so I'll just wait a bit. But no, when the sun is in your sign, you've got the full rays of the sun illuminating Scorpio. And so this is your time to initiate and activate. And I think that's a really, really important message. Now, if we look here, I'm going to start the month here. We find Mercury retrograding in the 12th house. So we still have some understanding or some kind of sense that things are not very clear at the start of the month. And there's a twofold reason for this. Partly because Mercury is retrograde, but also because it is in the house of secrets and shadows. And what happens on the 1st of November is that Mercury squares up to Saturn down here. And that's an aspect of seriousness. And I like to look at it in that way because sometimes we need to get serious about things, you know, and then we get things accomplished and done. But sometimes life is serious. We don't feel exactly full of the joys of spring. Everything's feeling a little bit gloomy. And I think just remembering this sometimes is enough to offset any kind of overly gloomy views about certain situations that are in your life. What we need to do with Mercury and Saturn is always be practical. Take the only practical steps you can do and leave emotions out of the picture. That's the advice. But the interesting thing here is that Mercury turns direct on the 3rd of November. And we always say that when Mercury turns direct, communications start to pick up so that we start hearing back from people. We sort of get to know what's going on. All our questions begin to be answered. But of course, by the Friday, the 6th, Mercury will be back squaring Saturn again. So we get a bit of a link up in this first week as to what happened around the Sunday, the 1st of November, and how we were feeling and what was going on, and maybe not being very happy about what was going on. There's going to be an explanation or some new understanding on this by the time we get to Friday, the 6th. Now, there are other major themes going on throughout this the month, and they're very Uranian. Now, this is the planet Uranus here. If you've never seen it before, it looks like a television aerial. And as you can see, I've got a symbol here, which is obviously the moon. And the important thing about this is to look at what Uranus is generally doing, especially, I have to say, to those late October birthdays. And perhaps a little bit around the 1st and 2nd of November as well, if you've got a birthday then, is that Uranus is acting as the awakener. It's awakening you to new possibilities. But because Uranus is in the 7th house, here we are looking at other people. So it's other people who are the agents of awakening, if you like, for you. But it also means that to a certain extent, relationships are unstable for this group. And it's just something you've got to build in. There can be some wonderful breakthroughs, you know, coming into contact with people and being entranced by them and your world opening up because of them. But there can also be some incredible breakdowns of communication and breakdowns of a relationship as well. But that is the great cycle of life, isn't it? Nothing is ever static, really and truly. So the first thing we really need to look at is where the moon here in the sign of Leo forges an angle with this. And it does so on the 7th of November. So this is the first occasion when you may get some kind of impact on a relationship. Maybe somebody changes a plan, or you meet someone and something is really sparked. But if you're in a long-standing situation where things are already very fractious, then this is a period to watch out, the 7th, because it's really going to be even more fractious than usual. Now, by the time we come a little later in the month, the sun and the moon are going to be opposition, this moon-Uranus conjunction. So you can imagine that's going to be mighty important. But before that time, what we're going to also look at is this Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. Can you see this here? Jupiter and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Now, I've already mentioned this boom-bust principle with these two planets, but here what we really need to look at is that this conjunction has occurred 3 times. It occurred in early April, 5th of April. It occurred again at the end of June, and now it's going to take place again on the 12th of November. So you might like to see if you can connect the dots here, because these time periods may have a lot to do with what happens in November. I look at Jupiter and Pluto and I think sometimes things are unbelievably great. You get a great advantage, a great boost. And here we're in the 3rd house. This is the 3rd house of your horoscope. So it may mean some publicity for some of you. It may mean a great conversation, a great discussion. And it isn't just any old discussion or any old, new thing beginning. It's something that really has the promise to take you far. Remember, Jupiter is the planet of far horizons, and my goodness, does it ever take us far at times. But as we go through, and we come now to the 15th, 14th and 15th of the month, first of all, we get the moon in Scorpio opposing Uranus. And remember what I said about the moon up here? Then you get a sudden kind of burst of electricity from Uranus. So new things begin, the sparks fly, whether they're sparks of romance and excitement and opportunity, or whether they're enough to, turn a relationship into a cinder. But I want to mention here, if you are a Scorpio and you were born, let's say in 1977, then you're at the Uranus opposition anyway. So this is a period of your life, at the moment and through to next year as well, where there is a terrific sense of, I want something different in my life. And I would say also it's part of the inner you that hasn't been expressed, needs to be expressed. And so a lot of things that are blocking you and preventing you from being the real you or doing what you really need to do, this Uranus opposition makes those changes for you. And that's why this period, 14th, 15th of November, might be very important in that regard, especially if you're born in 1977. But also it's important for those of you born in 1957 and 1998, because Uranus is squaring its natal position. And this means that you, again, have this theme of independence and individuality. If we think about the 1998 group, here you're fed up with being told what to do, you want to rebel against the norm, and so there is going to be a terrific opportunity here to both be yourself, but also you have to be careful about how many bridges you burn and just how much rebellion goes on. And again, let's look at these points in the month, the 7th here. And then when we come down to the moon here in Aquarius a little bit later on in the month, these are periods when you need to keep the lid on emotions and recklessness. Now, of course, if you're born in 1957, you're not really and truly trying to make rebellious changes, but it's still a period of rebellion, so that you still don't like being told what to do, and you still don't like people viewing you because you are a certain age. And people do that. There's ageism is a real factor. So this group really gets upset, if you're born in 1957, about being categorized as a certain age. And therefore you can't do this, you're not able to do that. And I won't say you're ignored, but you're not treated as a contender. So again, this period of time does release for you an opportunity to be a contender and to make changes and to prove just who you are as a fighting spirit, so to speak. So moving on through the months, I want to talk about Venus coming into Scorpio, which it does on the 21st. It's going to stay in the sign of Scorpio right through to just before Christmas. And when Venus is in your sign, you do get a little glow, a little kind of pink ambiance. People seem to draw towards you. You seem to be a little luckier. And again, when I'm talking about this idea of activation and initiation, then Venus brings you the opportunities to do all that, and also an audience who may well be very appreciative to all of that. So I'm drawing near to the end of the month, and the end of the month goes out in style. And it goes out in style because of this penumbral lunar eclipse. Now, the sun is in Sagittarius and the moon is in Gemini. And this takes us back to the new moon in Gemini of the 22nd of May. And you might be able to make a real direct relationship between the events in your life at that time and those that happen towards the end of November, most specifically on that lunar eclipse. Technically, we're in the 2nd and 8th house. So we're looking here at money and self-worth. So, of course, there could be a financial crisis. And I mean, with the coronavirus crisis, how many of us haven't felt the pinch or had some kind of issue about finance? But it's a very good opportunity to get finances right. We want to close the book on finances because it's a lunar eclipse. It's a full moon. But if you do feel a little bit stressed out over finances at this time, remember that's the lunar eclipse tending to do that to you. And what you need to do is let that eclipse settle down and really think strategically about the next, your next move, and that will come in the early part of December. But of course, all sorts of other things could be happening on that lunar eclipse, which is why I've encouraged you to look back at the May 22nd period, just around that time. And other things, you know, eclipses are game changers, so something else might shift and move big time for you. So I think you can see, having gone through the whole of November, that this isn't just your average month. It's a big, packed with information, packed with events. And I just want to emphasize that message that I gave you at the beginning of the video, this idea that you are empowered now, and you just have to keep reminding yourself of that. And instead of reacting to change, be the change you need to be. Well, thank you for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in a month's time on my December stars, but also, of course, on my twice monthly videos, which tend to be sort of general picture about what's going on in the world. Okay, bye for now.